Going to start with now section 126 to 147 that relates with guarantee. In the previous lecture we have seen indemnity, that was section 124 and 125. Okay, now we are going to start with the concept of guarantee. Now what is guarantee? Guarantee means a person who is called as a surety. He tells to the other, that is the principal debtor's liability, he takes on himself. He tells to the creditor that he is going to fulfill the promise given by the principal debtor if the principal debtor does not fulfill his liability. Therefore, there are three persons in guarantee. One is called as a creditor, the other is the principal debtor, and the surety. Okay. Now, section 126 of the Indian Contract Act defines the term guarantee. Okay, we'll see first the definition. Contract of guarantee: surety, principal debtor and creditor. Okay, now this concept is mentioned in section 126. A contract of guarantee is a contract to perform the promise or discharge the liability of a third person in case of his default. The person who gives the guarantee is called as surety. The person in respect of whose default the guarantee is been given is called as the principal debtor, and the person to whom the guarantee is given is called as the creditor. A guarantee may be either oral or it can be written. Okay, now this is mentioned in 126. I'll repeat again. A contract of guarantee is a contract where a person gives a promise to perform the promise of the third person or discharge the liability of third person. Now this third person is a principal debtor. Means I will tell to the bank authorities to give you loan, okay, and if you don't pay, then I am going to pay. Such a guarantee I am going to give it to the bank because I feel that you should get the loan and you also want the loan. Okay, therefore you will be the principal debtor, I will be the surety, and the bank will be the creditor. Okay, now these are special contract. We have seen in the concept of indemnity also. Indemnity is a special contract. Here contract of guarantee is also a special contract. Therefore, the principles of contract must be fulfilled. Okay, so we have to see here the essentials of guarantee. The first essential is what? Concurrence. Concurrence means concert, means the three persons, that is the creditor, principal debtor and the surety, they should concur with each other. They should negotiate with each other. They should be ready to perform their part of promise. Means the creditor is ready to give the loan to the principal debtor. Giving loan is one of the example which you have taken. You can take here any kind of liability or any promise also. Okay, so the creditor is doing something for the principal debtor. The principal debtor is going to promise to the creditor that he is going to repay that loan. But the creditor is telling that he wants some surety, he wants some guarantor. Therefore, a third person enters, that is a surety, and what he says, okay, give him loan. If he does not pay, then I will pay. Such a type of discussion should take place between the three people. Therefore, the first essential is what? Concurrence. A contract of guarantee requires the concurrence of the three parties: the principal debtor, the creditor and the surety. Okay, now this is the first essential of guarantee, that is concurrence. Second is what? Second is primary liability on some person. Some third person is there on whom the primary liability exists. Means the surety is telling the creditor, I will fulfill the promise, but when the principal debtor does not fulfill, means the original, the primary liability is upon the principal debtor. We have taken an example of loan. Okay, so the principal debtor who takes the loan, he has to repay the loan, he has to fulfill the promise. So if he does not do, then the surety enters. Therefore, the liability to fulfill the promise, liability to perform the promise and to pay the loan and all, or to fulfill the liability, is upon the principal debtor. That is the second essential, primary liability in some third person. Okay, now the third essential is what? Essentials of valid contract must be fulfilled. Means there should be an offer, acceptance, isn't it? There will be a concurrence between the creditor and the principal debtor first. the bank will be, the creditor will be ready to give certain kind of loan to the principal debtor. Therefore, negotiations will take place. Therefore, offer, acceptance and all that will be there, which we have seen as the essentials of contract. That should be fulfilled. But two things should be taken into consideration. Two things are different here. Means a contract of guarantee must have all the essential elements of a valid contract. But two things you have to consider. The first is what? All the parties must be capable of entering into a valid contract. Okay, this is the main essential of a contract. All the parties must be competent to contract. But here, the principal debtor may be a person who is suffering from some kind of incapacity in law. But at that time, the surety will have the primary liability. What is the general rule? Primary liability is upon the principal debtor, not on the surety. The surety is having secondary liability. But if the principal debtor suffers from some kind of disability, then the primary liability will shift to the surety. Okay, now this point should be considered. And the second is what? Consideration. The consideration which is being received by the principal debtor, it is sufficient for the surety. Means here there are three people, there are three contracts. Principal debtor, creditor, creditor surety, and principal debtor and surety. Therefore, there are three contracts. But here the surety and the creditor, what type of consideration is there? Here the consideration, that is a loan which has been paid by the creditor to the principal debtor, that is sufficient for the surety. Okay, see, consideration received by the principal debtor is sufficient for the surety, and it is not necessary that it must necessarily result in some benefit to the surety himself. What surety is taking? He is taking a risk, isn't it? Because the principal debtor has to repay the debt, and if he does not repay, the principal debtor does not repay the debt, then what will happen? The surety will have to repay it. Therefore, he is taking a risk. So, some kind of monetary benefit and all should not be there, or it is not there in the surety. Surety is taking just a risk, but that's okay for law. Okay, therefore, all the essentials of contract must be fulfilled in the contract of guarantee, but these two things are to be considered. Okay, now the fourth essential is what? Writing not necessary. Means in the section itself it is mentioned that a contract of guarantee can be either oral or it can be written, it can be either express, it can be implied also. But when we take an example of a bank as a creditor and giving loan, there is no oral agreement. Okay, so in between bank, the principal debtor and the surety, there is a paperwork being done, there are signatures. Therefore, the contract is always in writing. But the law says that contract of guarantee can be either implied, express, it can be written, it can be oral also. These are the essentials of guarantee. What we have seen, the first essential was concurrence. The second was primary liability in some person. The third we saw essentials of valid contract must be fulfilled. But those 2 points are to be considered. And the third is what? The contract of guarantee can be either oral, it can be either written, it can be implied, it can be expressed. Okay. Now one more thing is there which we should know. Ubereme fidei. Ubereme fidei means true disclosures. Full disclosures must be there in general contract. But in a contract of guarantee, there may not be ubereme fidei. Means the disclosures, the responsibility of disclosing everything, every fact is not there upon the creditor towards the surety, because the principal debtor and surety, they are having more concurrence. Therefore, the duty lies upon the principal debtor and the surety in between themselves. Here the creditor is not having the responsibility to make full disclosures to the surety. Therefore, we say that contract of guarantee is not ubereme fidei. However, when we see like contract of insurance and all, we say that they are ubereme fidei. Good faith must be there, full disclosures must be there, and if the insurance company comes to know about this, then they can avoid the contract. Okay, therefore contract of guarantee is not ubereme fidei. Today we have seen the essentials of guarantee. Okay, bye bye. See you.